Hey y'all, real quick before we dive into the next episode, I once read a book by Stephen Covey called The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, he said something really, really prominent, and it stuck with me, and I repeat it all the time. And it's that sometimes the significant problems we face cannot be solved at the same level of thinking we created them, right? Which really speaks to this idea of perspective. That sometimes we're trying to fix something with the same perspective that we had before, right? My mentor Darius Daniels always says, or my spiritual mentor Darius always says, God changes your life head first. He moves you head first, right? This idea of you have to change your perspective because your perspective could either be a prison and the thing that's holding you back, that's blocking your blessings, that's preventing you from really unleashing what God has for you and who He's called you to be. Or it could be a passport, right? That gets you to your next, to your bigger, to your better, to your greater. And so perspectives, are, especially when it relates to relationships, are so, so important. And so we've talked about the relationship with yourself. We've talked about, you know, relationships with families, relationships with God, relationship with friends, and we were bound to get to romantic relationships. And this is an area that I always say God is working on me in. And so in this season, um, God has really been changing my perspective on relationships. I will admit that just because of childhood trauma and just things that I've been through, uh, I didn't always have the best view on romantic relationships. I had experienced high levels of abandonment, of disappointment, and just people dropping the ball and letting me down to the point where I built up this wall, right? Not a fence, a wall. Um, and I limited access to me, right? So even to this day, there the area that I struggle in the most is vulnerability, because I'm learning to unlearn defense mechanisms, right? And so just in this season when I'm praying, asking for better relationships, God has really been challenging me, in my perspective, but in being vulnerable. And so I started to look at, I'm somebody who I was fearful of marriage. It wasn't until recently that I began to envision myself married, and with a family because that always felt like prison to me. Um, that somehow getting connected in a marriage meant that I would lose my identity, that I would lose my independence, that I would lose myself in it. And so even as I've been in serious relationships and I've dated, there was always a part of me that um, held back. Like it's like I always had that one foot out. Like you were never gonna get me 110% all the way in. And so God has really been challenging me of now, don't get me wrong, I'm still not going to be diving headfirst all in for everybody and anybody. But for the right person, recognizing how necessary that is because when you get with the right person, the things that value the momentum they add to your life is just magical. And so while I have not experienced that yet, I do have the pleasure of being surrounded by women who have. And so super excited about this episode, because we get to sit with, I said shit. Oh, we got to keep that in there. That's just funny. But I get to sit with two women who I admire so, so much. But more importantly, who I have and am recently celebrating, because they took that step towards marriage, and I've seen how it's just dramatically changed their lives. And so, looking forward to sitting down with two women who are near and dear to my heart. One of my mentors, Dr. Kesha Reed, and my sister, cousin, friend, and return familiar face to the Cool Auntie fam, and that's our other Cool Auntie, Auntie Sasha. And so, without further ado, looking, I'm so excited for this episode. It's just, I just love, and I love for people who deserve it, and these two do. And so, without further ado, I give you our next episode, Girlfriends. Let's go. What up, what up, what up? It's your girl Tania, aka the Cool Auntie, and this is the Cool Auntie Podcast. I always hate how big I smile, but I think it's because I'm always so excited. It's the moment where I get so excited about whatever the conversation I know I'm about to have with whoever I'm with. So I don't know why, I hate how cheesy I get. I look so cheesy right now. But it only speaks to the two women who not only do I have the pleasure and the privilege to have in my life, but who I have the pleasure and the privilege to have join me tonight. Y'all know Auntie Sash. Say hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
But we are also being joined today by someone who, oh man, not only is her name Dr. Reed, but she has no problem reading me anytime, any place, anywhere.
Listen, when you know the assignment, okay? When you know the assignment. Thanks for having me.
Thank y'all so much. You know what? I couldn't think of, I think we talk about like just dating relationships and just what it means to be a Black woman. I don't agree with everybody's idea of the three. I'm like, well, no shade to anybody, but I'm a certain kind of woman. I believe in certain kinds of things and I expect certain kind of things. And so I really wanted to have women who I didn't want to have to question. Like, I knew that I would co-sign whatever you said. Not saying that we have to have like-minded folks on here, but when you have a platform like this, it's important that you're mindful of the message, and that there's alignment.
Absolutely.
And I just knew that y'all, that the way we have organic conversations, just how y'all both been so influential in my life. I just knew that y'all would bless whoever listening to this episode. So I can't wait, cause I'm stressed. I'm struggling. And I was telling y'all before we hopped on, it's my birthday today. They don't know it yet. It's my birthday today.
Hey. Happy birthday. Blessings.
And you know what? It started off rough, but community was so, when I tell you, and both, you know what? I feel like I've had this conversation with both of you at some point in my life, but something that God's really working on with me is pride. And learning how to use and to embrace my community and to say when I need help and lean on people. It's so I didn't realize how hard it was for me.
Yeah,
but I feel like it keeps putting me in situations where I have to, and it's like every time they show up and they show out. And today was no different. But you know what, even, and I'm so appreciative of that, but I ain't gonna lie, every birthday I still have this fantasy in my head of waking up with breakfast that ain't there.
Being fed grapes. Yeah. We all have that dream about the grapes and somebody fanning you. That one.
Or coming home, it's gonna be rose petals going somewhere to another room. I can't pretend that didn't happen today.
That's real. That's real, Tania.
It did. I again not own that of like I go through my seasons and y'all both this. I'm very independent and like I would want a man, but I don't need one. I always say that. And I love myself, but I can't pretend that I don't have lonely moments. And I know holidays especially, it really hits me. And so like I talk about this series and just about relationships in general. They've been so nuanced. For me, and just they change with every phase. I feel like when I'll be fully, no one knows this, but I never saw me as someone who would eventually get married or having kids.
Yeah,
no one would ever think that, but I just think I didn't see the women who I thought were like people will always say things like, oh, you remind me of Jordan off The Best Man, and you remind me of so and so, and they would give me these characters of people who were single.
Wow.
And loud, and I was like, I don't want to be there. Like, those are not compliments. But I would hear it so often that I always thought that my personality and just being so much and so headstrong would get in the way. So it's great when when I find, I'm sorry, all I have to say, like when I connect with people, it's so important, especially people who I feel like who are role models and mentors to me. It's always women who I feel like remind me of me in some way.
Yeah.
And so both
Yeah.
of you in your journey, both of you remind me of me in some way. And so when I think about, I'm smiling because like it's just something about people who like everybody deserves love. I
Mm-hmm.
ain't going,
Mm-hmm.
that's a God thing. Everybody deserves love, but it's
I
something
agree.
about people who you just know just really deserve it. Like they just deserve an extra scoop, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And both of
Okay.
y'all are just, I'm so like, I'm smiling. I hate that I'm smiling so big, but just to have two people who I feel like just y'all deserve everything that y'all are stepping into.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations to both of you on
Mm-hmm.
getting married and okay
Mm-hmm.
on your way to getting married. It's just I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't think of two more deserving women, but thank you for just the inspiration in that. Sorry, that's enough of me. I talked a lot. That was a
I love it.
lot.
I can't stop cheesing and grinning. I love it. I love it. Thank you again for having me.
Yes. Okay. So I gotta know because it's hard out here, y'all. I don't know if it's the pen. I haven't
Woo.
been out here long, so kudos to those of y'all who've been out here for a long time. It ain't been that long, but it's hard. Um, and I didn't know what it meant to really how to navigate singleness. I didn't realize about singleness. I don't think I ever accepted singleness being a season. But I know
Mm.
that when I just from me and Sash reconnected in our adulthood to Dr. Reed just being under your leadership, I was a
Mhm.
part of your singleness journey and I got to
Mhm.
watch how both of you manage and handle singleness. And so to see you just
Mhm.
deal with that and then step into this, it's just like, wow, like it's just great. I'm so happy for
Mhm.
you. I really am so happy. But
Aw.
you gotta catch the people up. Like I got to see a little bit of it, but like talk to me. I think from and both from your standpoints of just what was that like for you, just navigating with it. Mind you, as a black woman, those
Mhm.
narratives of constantly hearing about us being bitter, lonely, angry,
Mhm.
single, to stepping
Mhm.
into your now. What is that like? What's that been
Mhm.
like?
Mhm. Mhm. So I guess I can jump in there and start. I love that we're in different age brackets. I'm the little seasoned auntie, so I can talk a little bit from that
Little
perspective. I'm
season
in the
Ain't
good.
nothing wrong
40s.
with
Yeah,
that. We
little
embrace that
seasoning,
here.
little seasoning. We're gonna learn today. But no, it is truly a journey. Listen, it is truly a journey. It is truly a journey. So Tania, when we met, when you were in undergrad, I was divorced, right? And so I actually got married right out of college. A lot of people don't know this. So I got married the first time I was 22. A damn
Mm.
baby. Can we curse on here? Okay. A
Yes.
baby. Can we guys? Okay, a damn baby, right? But I felt like, as women, we feel like we have to, follow these check lines and these checkpoints. So college, check. Okay, so it's time to get married, check. The baby, check. Like we feel so much pressure, a lot of us, to meet these milestones in a certain order and in a certain time. And so I felt like I loved my first husband, but we were so young, 22, and by the time I was in the end of my 20s, we were divorcing and I was devastated. And so I grew up without my father. And so I think I was seeking that male attention for years because I didn't have that from my father. And so working through that and just having to be real intentional about my healing. And so my 20s were about, getting over the divorce, working through my healing. My 30s were really about me bumping my head, trying to figure out what I wanted, figuring out what I liked, what I didn't like, and really learning Kesha and who she was. So I
Mm.
didn't get remarried. I got married the first time at 22. So I was single all through my 30s, so a whole decade, just bumping my head, trying to figure it out. I didn't get remarried until 44. So I'm 46. We've been married 2 years, happily married, second time around, grateful, sweeter than the first time, lessons learned. But what I want people to know is that it truly is a journey. You have to be patient with yourself,
Mm.
give yourself time to heal. For me, therapy was monumental for that. I had to start with Kesha at the core. So, what were the real issues? For me, it was not having my dad. That was major. And I would look for that validation in men. And so, men that weren't good for me, weren't good to me, weren't good to my soul or my heart. And so, when I finally took a step back and had the greatest love affair with Kesha,
Mm.
that's when the relationship happened. And I think God knew I had to heal first because I would have taken the baggage from marriage one into marriage two. Do we have our challenges? Absolutely. We were fussing yesterday, right? But today, hey, babe, you good? I'm on a podcast. I'll come out in a minute. We good
Healthy,
today.
real
Yesterday
healthy.
was a mess. Honey, that's marriage, right? You stay, it's the commitment. You stay committed. So I don't even remember what your question was, Cool Auntie, but
No,
it is
but
a
you
journey.
did. You did. You
It is
did, and
a
you hit.
journey,
It's
and you have
I.
to trust it.
Yes, and you know what? I know once Sasha shares, it's gonna be the same thing. So I'll wait. I'll wait. Sasha, I wanted, because she was nine that way, so I know she was already like,
Yep,
yep, check,
all of
check.
that, all of that.
So my story is very similar to your story, and it's amazing because we were definitely in different season and different,
Mm-hmm.
age brackets, but
Mm-hmm.
literally the pattern is the same. So for me,
Interesting.
yeah, so to me, I had a college sweetheart, and I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course, women with our check boxes and what needs to be
Mm-hmm.
done, counting the clocks, and it was like, okay, I graduated, I'm still in love with this man, and we are having a great relationship. We did long distance, we did school, we did everything. So now marriage is definitely the next thing. It wasn't, and it was very devastating, especially when you've invested with this person in it, and I need people to understand that when you separate from a long-term relationship, it's the same feelings of a divorce because you have to separate so many things.
Yeah,
It's two
it's
lives
hard.
that are literally no longer together, and you have to find ways to separate that from families to friends to just everything. And at that time, or in these days, social media is a big thing. So it was like finding out how to navigate that. So for me, it was extremely hard.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of my 30s being that time where I fell in love with Sasha, it was my 20s.
Mm.
I got
Mm-hmm.
to really
I
learn
love it.
me. And I really discovered, like, wow, I was about to really marry this man. And I got to really
Me.
understand who the prize was, and not boasting about myself, but it allowed me to authentically and organically look at that relationship and what I thought I wanted and who I thought I was at that time. I realized that I was putting myself or Sasha and what Sasha wanted on the back burner for everybody else. And I learned to
Mm.
never do that again. I can still
Mm-hmm.
love him and love her
Mm-hmm.
or love everybody that's in my life, but without putting
Mm-hmm.
myself to the side. So that my
Absolutely.
20s, I learned to really love myself, and I learned who I
Mm.
was, what I wanted to do. I ended up buying a house, going back to
Mm.
school, getting my master's. I ended up challenging myself
Awesome.
to do the things that I dreamed about, the things
Both of
that
Mm.
both of you started grad school. I watched.
am
I
I
love
crazy?
it.
Like I bought a house and I'm in grade school and I'm remodeling a house. Like I'm losing my mind. Remember I said it to me? I was like,
I love
what
it.
is this? But I did it, and I did it in singleness.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I
Mm-hmm. You did it
embraced
for
it. I
you.
took all of those frustrations, all of those. You got to embrace the loneliness too. And I
Mm-hmm.
always
You
tell
do.
Tania that
You
that
do.
loneliness actually it's a good thing. Learn to be okay with being by yourself. It doesn't necessarily mean you're lonely,
Mm-hmm.
because that
Mm-hmm.
way when your Boaz does come, because he will come,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you will be
Okay.
so whole. You will
So
be
good.
so ready. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
your glow is just
Absolutely.
different, and that's how I ended up falling in love with my friend. I just never would have thought, but
Yeah.
it allowed it to happen so organically, and I was very sure of
Mm.
myself. I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. So from the
Mm-hmm.
gate, he knew what. Oh, Josh is not tolerating that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got to come
Mm-hmm.
at her because that's just not going to work.
Mm-hmm. That's called
And it allowed
standards.
us to get here. Yes, the standards. But I
Mm-hmm.
learned those things in my 20s because if I had, things had gone according to my plan and what I thought I think I would have sacrificed a lot of things. But I thank God that
Mm.
I, moving into now, I'm 30, I'm not sacrificing anything
But
anymore.
you know
But it
what?
feels
Mm-hmm.
That's a great
I love
point, I think,
that.
because yeah, we
It's
talk
beautiful.
about it in another episode. But I always tell folks that I think singleness as a whole should be a thing for everyone. But I think especially for Black women, I think both of you talked
Mm-hmm.
about just like we, and again, an earlier episode with a therapist and a psychologist, we talk about just this idea of we have so much childhood trauma. And I think as Black
Mm.
women, we bear so much of it,
yeah.
of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves, of the people we care for, of every man we date. We don't
Mm-hmm.
always put them down. So as we travel on our journeys, right,
Nope.
we're constantly
Mm-hmm.
picking new things up, but we're
And stuff
never
Yeah.
ever
like
laying
that.
anything down. And
Oh,
so it's
that's good.
something about the singleness season that I'm learning how to your point, to be able to lay things down so that I do have the capacity, and
Mm-hmm.
the wherewithal to accept whatever's coming.
Absolutely.
Because to your point, like I don't know, I think in different ways of, and you talked about just childhoods, like so I've also learned in this season in the series of how much your parents are your first, that according to science and research, they are your first introduction or your introduction to relationships, even to
Right.
romance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your parents, and so, and that's both your, in a way, both your mother and your father contribute
Mm-hmm.
to how you view relationships. And I
Right.
never thought about that in my head. They were never even like, they weren't even touching. They were different. Me and my mom didn't even discuss my romantic relationships.
Mm.
But it's such a but what you mentioned, but it's such a big thing. Talk to me about, again, in your singles. What did you learn about your
Mhm.
childhoods, about your
Mhm.
relationships with your parents? How did they have an effect on either what you were attracting or how you showed up in your
Mhm.
relationships?
I
Yeah. So like you, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was it was just so fresh on my mind. Coming out of the relationship and just learning and loving me and getting to know who I was at that time, post school, post everything, no more distractions. I think for me, based on like my childhood trauma, the relationships with my parents, and just seeing their relationships, I had really learned that I was holding on to people or relationships longer than what I should have, because I
Mm,
didn't want
Mm.
to let go of what I thought was love or what I thought was comfort. So I would give whatever was needed in that relationship so that I can still hold on to it. And at some point,
Mm.
God has to take some things away because we won't give them up,
mm.
you know.
You
And
have to
it taught
snatch
me
them.
to, yeah, it taught me
Okay.
to never just give. I can't be the relationship. It got to be two people, giving 100%. And my father did teach me that. And during
Mm.
that time, because of my relationship with him being so solid versus my relationship with my mother, it taught me how to stand firm in that loneliness or that singleness, and allowed me to be more independent. And I just
Mhm.
honestly like continue to embrace that. But that's because of my relationship with my father. It was just very much like,
Mhm.
okay, you know what, I do got this. Okay,
Mhm.
I was given too much than I should have. But I
Mhm.
thought
Mhm.
about the lack of relationship with my mother, and
Mm.
just that whole maternal side, and the trauma like of constantly losing people growing up. And so you get to a point where you try to solve your own problems, but you're not sure why you're doing that, and
Mm,
that's why, like Tania talks about in last season and previous episodes, why it's you have to learn to kind of process that childhood trauma in whatever way possible, because there's no way to we don't resolve it necessarily. And to me, I'm big on this because
yeah.
I'm in mental health. I don't think we resolve anything, and it just shreds up and it's no longer. But you do have to find ways to process that and
Mhm. Mhm.
appropriately how to move forward with it.
It's all about
Mhm.
perspective, like, right? It's about how you see
Mhm.
it. How you
Yeah,
see it
one hundred
is
percent.
Mhm.
is everything.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
definitely addressing that.
Yeah.
Miss Keisha.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So for me, again, raised by a single mother, independent. She had 3 children. I have 2 older brothers, and she just got it done. I saw her do everything. I mean, she handled it, worked 2 jobs. We were good. And although we were low income and we did live in the projects for a while, but we didn't miss anything. I mean, I never felt poor. I didn't realize we were considered poor until I realized in middle school, because I had a lunch ticket. I was like, oh, that's for poor kids. I didn't know that. I thought everybody had a lunch ticket. I know.
Or a free
And
or reduced
so,
lunch. I'm like, oh, you don't got free
right.
lunch?
Oh, that means you're poor. I didn't know. Okay. But we had all the love we needed, all the things we needed. We were good, right? And so I saw her grind. And so I always wanted to have a husband. Like even in high school, I was like, I want to have a 2 parent household. And if I have children, I want
Right,
them to have 2 parent. Like I just put so much
right.
value in that. So when I divorced, I was devastated. I didn't want the divorce. I was devastated. And I remember telling my mom, when I told her, I said, well, my dad left you and then my husband left me. And she was like, well, what does your husband have to do with your dad? And that question was major. And
Mm,
I had to take a step back and
Yep.
kind of start unpeeling, what does that have to do with my dad? A whole lot. And so again, I mentioned earlier, therapy helped me to realize that Kesha by herself was enough, that I did not have to have the validation of a man. And I remember telling my therapist years ago, I said that I believe, and I was, single and struggling, and I had my moments, trust me. But I remember telling my therapist, I said, I feel like a woman, if she's married and has kids and a career, that's, she got it going on. He was like, so you're telling me because you're not married, you don't have it going on? You're gorgeous. You're smart. You have your degrees. I don't understand that. And when he put
And I
the
think
mirror
it's
in my face, I was
also
like, you know what?
society
You're right.
too.
I'm a bad chick. You're right.
Yeah, one hundred
So I
percent.
just put so much value in the marriage piece. And so I had to really kind of put that aside and trust God and say, okay, God, you know the desires of my heart. I believe that I'm a woman of faith. So I'm going to continue to pray about my Boaz, but I want it in your timing. And what I've learned is in relationship, you have to have 2 wholes. You can't have a half and a half to make a whole. You got to have 2 whole people to make a whole. And so Kesha had to get whole. And so
Yeah.
it took a while to get there. She's finally there. She's not perfect. But by the time I met my husband, I was in a good place. I wasn't pressed. And men can tell when you're pressed, when you're thirsty. They can feel it. And they'll act on that and get what they need from you and keep it pushing. I was so good. I remember when we first started dating, he was like, so are you dating other people? I was like, I am. He was like, you are? I was like, yeah. Can you pass me the ketchup? I mean, just so cool. And he was like, oh. And like I said, I was so chill. And I never forget, maybe 3 weeks later, he was like, so I know you say you were seeing other people, but can we just kind of just date each other and see where this goes? And I was like,
This
well,
is literally my story. This is literally my story. So
I
this
did not
is
know
true.
that. Oh my God. So he had
This is
intention.
true.
He knew what he wanted. And that was so sexy to me. I said, well, okay, let's see. Let's see. And I slid my
Okay, but so here's the thing. I want to, because you know what? Maybe this is. I don't want to get too excited that maybe there's hope on the horizon, that maybe the tide is shifting for me, because
listen.
I'm stepping into something, some new stuff, and it's different. Because I think, to your point, I think all of us, and even though, like, for whatever reason, like, we were raised by very independent women.
Strong.
And we watched them juggle a lot. Now, whether or not we agree with how they juggled and decisions they made all the time, we've all seen, which I think we were all raised. I can say from hearing y'all's story, we were all raised by strong Black women. And I think as a result, we are all strong Black women. But I know I have been called too strong too many times, right? Still to this day. And I think, I'll be honest, there was a time where I was too strong, where I felt like I didn't want one, I didn't need one, I got this, whatever. I think I'm stepping into a new layer of independence, and it's crazy because I didn't know how to put words to it, but hearing you all say it, it's that thing of, because I think even too, there's a stigma about what independent means. That people have this idea about a Black independent woman. You know, when I say independent, I'm not saying that I wouldn't let you do it, or that you weren't allowed to do it. What I'm saying is that whether you're here or not, it's going to get done.
It's going to get done.
It's going to get done. But if you want to do it, then you can do it. But if you don't do it, I'm still all right. That's what it means to me. And just stepping into that new. Okay.
Yeah, and it's
that's okay. Absolutely.
We're both raised by independent women, independent Black women. So let me at least give my mother credit for that. And I think it also, the other side, regardless of the relationship or not, I watched my mom be independent in and out of marriages. I watched her separate from my father and remarry and then separate again. But I've watched her in all of that not miss a beat.
Same.
Bills were we've been doing that since the beginning of time.
We still ate, and then I didn't realize we were considered poor. You know, even whether I grew up.
You got free reduced lunch too. You had a lunch ticket.
I never it never felt like that to me because we were always fed, clothes were always clean, we were always good. You know, and Tania,
I was hood rich. Okay, Sasha, you know, I was hood rich. We wasn't like I was hood rich. You know, the lights. We had the new sneakers. The lights wasn't on. We had the new sneakers though.
And the crazy
that is the classic definition of hood rich bull.
And when we tell our stories, I'm like, really? And she's like, really? Because you can never tell outside looking in.
Right.
So going through that singleness, I was like, oh, I got this. I didn't see this my whole life.
Right. But even to that point, it's about perspective. You know, because I think too, I'm learning how to. It's not about what happened. Like your history, your story is your story. But I've changed how I looked at things. Like I think I used to look at like the independence as a bad thing. Like when I would hear people say like, you know, you're too strong, you're too. I'm like, well, what do you want me to be? But you know, I one thing I love is that at the end of the day, I'll debate anyone under the table about this. But there's nothing I love more than being a Black woman, because we wouldn't have anything without us. Listen, every corporation, every big business, you may not see that a Black woman on the poster. You may not see her as a CEO, but trust me, somewhere in that structure, she's doing the damn thing. Somewhere in there, she's doing it, or there's several of them doing it. And I think the same thing that we get critiqued for as independent Black women is the same thing that everyone sucks out of us when they need it.
Right, exactly. That part.
You know? But talk to me. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead. Ask your question.
Well, I guess for me, I think because it's changing for me and what that independence mean. And again, but also I'll be fully transparent in that I do struggle with vulnerability in relationships. And Saj, you're gonna laugh, I know, because like I recently had a crush, and when I tell you just the things that I did,
word me out.
The things that I did? People would be so like, people think I'm so cool and I'm so on all the time. I was just like, I would do something. I'd be like, why did you do that? Like, why did you say that? You know you didn't want to say it. Like, I was so mad at me. Like, who are you? Because it's so hard to let that guard down and show people like, again, like, you know, I do want that. I do like that. Yes, do that for me. It's hard to say that or indirectly say that. So talk to me, because both of y'all, mind you, y'all in your singleness, your independent lane, how do you go about really being vulnerable, especially after you've been vulnerable before and you've experienced trauma from it?
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of that is us protecting ourselves, our defense mechanism. So we're trying to protect our hearts, our spirits. So that's what that is. So I don't want to let you in for you to break me down, to break my heart, to leave me busted and disgusted, right? So that's what that is. Listen, that's some old church, busted and disgusted. But you really have to be who you are. I think it's so important to be your authentic self. So Tania, you keep talking about how people say you're too independent, you're too this. I think you show up how you are, but I do think there are times that you might sprinkle a little bit more, you might sprinkle a little bit less of who you are, but you always show up as who you are. So I'm loud, I'm outgoing, animated. My husband knows that and he appreciates that. So what I tell women, every pot has a lid. So your lid is out there.
I like that.
And that person every pot has a lid. Your person will appreciate you for who you are. And what I found, my husband's the opposite. So he's more reserved, more chill. He's always on a 2 when I'm on 1,000. And we just work to listen. He'd be like, girl, and this how you get me. You done? I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Which one to eat? I don't know what you want to eat. Like, if you need a man like that can kind of check you, but be real smooth with it. You good? You all right? You finished? I'm like, yeah, I'm done fussing. Okay, what we gonna eat? So I say that to say you can be who you are, but your lid will appreciate the pot that you are, and you get to be your authentic self, and you work together, you figure it out, you compromise. And what I've learned is he's more reserved. I can't make him be different. Just like I'm out loud, he can't make me be different. You have to appreciate people who they are, and the right person will love you and appreciate all that you are. I say all the time, I'm a handful, but you got 2 hands.
Okay, in a lap if I don't fit, okay.
1,000,000%. One thing I can say
yes, you got 2 hands. Handle it.
Yes, when that Boaz comes, he's going to be a perfect match. So there's not going to be any, can I be vulnerable? Can I tell him how I feel? Girl, you're going to feel so comfortable. You're going to be able to say, I don't like this. And this is how I want it to be. And he's going to listen. I'm telling you. I think sometimes I put this man through a lot of stress. Because I'm a lot sometimes. I just
2 hands. He got 2 hands.
I just watch him handle it so calmly. He's like, okay.
That sounds just like my husband.
And he's like, what do you need from me? I love it. If he says nothing else, girl, when he say, well, what can I do? What do you need from me? That's everything for me.
Oh, that's love. That's real love.
And he's the extrovert. So he's usually like, that, and I'm the very reserved one.
Oh, okay.
And when I snap, I snap. You know, I'm about who I am. But he really allows me to be vulnerable from the start. And that's how I knew, okay, this is different. This is very, very different. So
and you just know
with each other. Like, hey, are you dating people? Yep, I'm dating other people. And like I said, you know.
Okay, so wait, hold on, because now you're, I don't know if this is again confirmation of the wheels turning, because you know my criteria is changing, so no one knows.
So I let you know what it is, how it is.
So, but listen, because you know what? So no, everyone's gonna laugh at me. But one thing I did do, and this is so me, but I already wrote my vows. You know it's me.
I like that kind of stuff. I do.
I already wrote. Look at that. Like, Tania, what? I already wrote my vows, because I said to myself, because I remember, I know what they say, because I say on there, if I'm reading this, it means that if I'm marrying you today, it means that you were everything on this paper.
I love it. I love that.
So it's locked in my safe, and my vows are off. So whoever he is, boo, I'm ready. All we need is a dress. And I got that for real. I got that and 2 backups. Okay, but I'm just saying.
I love it.
It's on my Pinterest board. I got my pictures for it, babe. We good. We ready. But
Let's get it. Let's find this
but
lid. Let's
it's
find
just
this
crazy
lid. Or let
how
him find you.
yeah. So but I was going through
Thank
like
you.
my old keepsakes and I found an old list.
Mm.
I don't know what I might have been probably a pro because of the years. It's probably a program at when I was an undergrad that we went to some girl
Okay.
program about
Okay.
dating. So I wrote this list. I'm like, why would I put that on my list? I was saying things like he got to be funny. I don't care. I make me laugh. I'm like funny. Who put funny? And that was in my top five. I said funny's in my top five. Sis, what was you thinking? You know, so it's like, well, funny don't pay bills. Funny don't get
Hey,
you
don't
up.
pay a
Like
bill. Don't pay a
funny.
car note.
But but one of the things on my list is I gotta be able to be myself because it's been so hard for me to be myself places that he has to
Yeah.
feel like home to me. And so both of
Mm-hmm.
y'all kind of alluded to that a little bit, but talk to me
Mm-hmm.
about because I kind of asked what I mean I put on like the script, right? We do have like a little script, right? When I say the qualities of a good man, but my thing is I think we all know what a
Mm-hmm.
good man is,
Mm-hmm.
but a
Mm-hmm.
good man don't mean that he's your man or that he's my
Come
man.
on. Come on. So
So
I
I
can
don't want
jump
to
in on that.
ask you that question anymore. I'm
Yeah.
scratching that off the list. Not what's a good man, but what? How did you know that he was your man?
Yeah. So let me speak to your list. I love that. And I actually jotted a few thoughts about that earlier. So when I was in my 20s, and a lot of people in their 20s, I wanted 6 feet, six pack, six figures. Girl, that's 666. That's a damn number. Right? Listen,
Okay.
so my point
And
is,
that six
as you
pack too much pressure
mature,
because I only got a pack and a half.
girl, right, and I'm working on it. I'm working
I
on it.
don't know what I
But my
got.
point is, as you mature, the things that are most important change. Like you mentioned, being funny. I think that's okay, to have a sense of humor, but it's not required, right? So I
Mm-mm.
went through my 30s. I told you that. 40s, I needed someone. Yeah, I'm glad my husband's 6 feet. I just like that, but that's not a requirement. I want a person who's kind. I want a person who loves God. I want a person who's going to protect me and take care of my heart. Those things are important. I have a doctorate. My husband just finished a couple of certifications at Durham Tech a month ago. So he didn't have a college degree when we met. And so in my 20s, I would have dismissed him. So at 40, I'm like, let me be open to the man that he is and not focus so much on he is and not focus so much on and so really being open. So a lot of women are expecting so many things and have this long list and they don't even check off some of the things on the list. Do you work out, sis? But you want him to have a six pack. What are you eating? Everything. So my point is we
See,
need to have
Dr.
standards.
Reed.
We need to have standards, but not these unrealistic lists. So does he have
Yeah.
a good part? Is he a good person? Is he family oriented? So once I got older and wiser, those are the things I look for. So we can build together. We've started a couple of businesses. We're building, grinding. He's in school now, so we can do all that. But I want to know who you are as a man. Who are you on the inside? And if
Mm.
you can love my heart, love God, we can make that thing work. So he's finishing school, thinking about getting another degree. So I'm so proud of him. But just think if I had pushed him aside because, he's blue collar
Mm.
and he's, not whatever and what society thinks. I'm like, that's a good man, honey. He takes care of me. Doesn't mind getting his hands dirty, literally, to make sure that we're good. And so that's how I knew. And it was just easy. It really was easy in the beginning, dating and getting to know each other. I could be all things Kesha. And he didn't run away. I was like, oh, okay, I guess he all right. Because I didn't show him every season and he's still here.
I love it.
Every pie has a lid.
I love
Yeah.
that. Every
No,
part of it.
I agree 100% with Miss Keisha, to be honest with you. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how you know it's really the
Mm-hmm.
unspoken blueprint. That's what I'm going to say because this is
I
not in a
like
book.
that.
But this is how you know that you have a healthy relationship because it aligns with another healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was my man, and for me, because I could 100% be myself. And I was tired.
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of being anything less than that. You're getting Sasha. That's it. You're actually you're getting Sasha Raw. You're getting the whole person. Okay, and you're getting everything that comes with me. Listen, me and my dad are best friends. You're getting him too. So I really need to understand
Package.
and handle who I am. We are a package, and how he
Mm-hmm.
feels, or what my dad views, because he's gonna be honest with me. He's not just gonna be my dad. So I need people to understand, what comes with who I am. I'm not hiding it for next week or for a year from now. I'm throwing you straight in. Let's see what's up. And that's how I was with this
That's what you
because
should
it
do.
wasn't like, I think usually when you're dating, you're trying to put that best foot forward or
Mm.
that made up self. And no,
The representative. The representative.
yeah, you're not getting the representative. And what I also love was that
Mm-hmm.
because I had experienced so much in my 20s when
Mm-hmm.
my man came along, um,
Mm-hmm.
I loved who he was. I loved that he was vastly different from me. So
Mm-hmm.
he He's
Mm-hmm.
not a college graduate either, but this man
Mm-hmm.
makes six figures. You would just never know that. I love that his background, like who he is exterior. Oh, it's very rough. And I thought like, well, I wonder how he is in a relationship. But when I got in a relationship, he's completely vulnerable with me. He's extremely
Mm-hmm.
tender, like, but he doesn't give that side to everybody, and that's how I
Mm-hmm.
know this is clearly my
Mm-hmm.
man. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I've
Mm-hmm.
never saw this side until I, agreed to be in this relationship with him. What
Mm-hmm.
also let me know is that he was my man because he told me I was dating other people. He was dating other
Yeah.
people, and he said
Yeah.
that's not what he wanted to do anymore. And he kindly, in his nicest voice possible, let me know, like, oh yeah, you're not doing that anymore. I'm like, okay, because
Well,
part of my
that's
love
what you
is to
want to
let me
do.
know. Okay, let me know what it is. Right,
Intention.
and I'm 100%
Intention.
okay with that.
Girl,
I
our
don't
mates'
like when
cousins.
I told y'all there was so much
probably
Just
alignment.
like.
I told
because
you.
I don't do confusion. I don't do what we doing. I don't do none of that. When you're a woman and you're sure of yourself, you need a man that's sure of himself because that man is supposed to lead according to the Bible. So for me, I
Absolutely.
need a man of God. So when I came out of my 20s, I had also reestablished that relationship with God, and I set that foundation. So when I found
Mm-hmm.
my man, me and him was finding God together, and we was there together. So
That's
that was
awesome.
also important for me. So that the fact that he knows how to
Mm-hmm.
pray and he's seeking God first, and that this
Mm-hmm.
man will literally do whatever he needs to do to provide for us. And
That's awesome.
I just never experienced that outside of my father.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
Just
crazy.
That's
it
amazing.
just
That's beautiful.
organically, naturally, authentically.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. Even the things that I even saw yesterday, I didn't know that he does. He slipped
Mm-hmm.
up and he's like, oh, he wasn't supposed to know that. I didn't know he does that. But it's that real love, and I just really appreciate that. It's like he thinks of me. He thinks of all of that of
Mm-hmm.
me.
Aw, that
I
is so
love.
sweet.
No, I
I love
love.
it.
It's
I
like, when am
love
I gonna
it.
change my name? Come here,
No, I love it. And I love it because you know what? It also confirms like lately, like I don't have as many, I'm not attracted to many people anymore because I think in the past
Mm.
I was attracted to looks. Now it's value. Like you, it's because I like something about your
Who you
character
are.
or something
yeah.
about
Who
Yes.
who
you
you are.
are.
So, like I don't like he could be so okay. I ain't gonna lie. This happened earlier. This happened last week. I met this guy. I thought it was cute. Had a nice car. He pulled up. He got out. I'm like, all right, cool. Then he texted me. He said, "This rich,
DIS.
no period. This
Uh,
rich." And my friends thought it was funny that I didn't respond. That I blocked him. But what? It was so much that wasn't said. It wasn't about what was said. It was the things that weren't said. The no period. The
right.
fact that is the shortest verb in the English language, and you chose not to use it. And then you took the extra effort to go beyond autocorrect to type in this intentionally.
Yeah. So he put
Mm-hmm.
the is in there. He just put the D in front.
It was just
Mm.
like we not. But I know it's joking. I'm
Mm-hmm.
jokingly saying that, but like it's just like the things that I think I used to be attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
The flashy is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I,
Yeah.
but I want to go because y'all went so many different directions. I want to circle back because it's almost like both in your own ways. Because even like I think going back to for you to get there is that you have to be open to dating and that vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
of like
Yeah.
for I'm learning is that men we want to see men's vulnerable sides, but we
Mm-hmm.
are leading with our representative. I would be like,
Mm.
well, show me you. That's me right now. I'm like, show me you. And when you show me you, I might show you
Then
me.
I'll show you.
No,
Mm-hmm.
I might show you me. You show me you though, but I might show you
Mm-hmm.
me if I like
Yeah.
what you look like. That's me.
Right. 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 Mm-hmm.
And I think for both of you, getting to that level of comfort of I guess it's a way like being okay with her. I'm learning that anybody who you care about, you give them permission to hurt you. That's whether it's romantic. I thought it was just romance, but I think it's just period. Friendship,
Mm-hmm. Friendships.
relationships,
Mm-hmm.
period. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you care about someone, you automatically give them the power to hurt you. And so, how did you all,
Sure.
especially after? I think for me, I'm so protective because I've been through. People don't know how much
Mm-hmm.
work I went through to get back to me. And now
Yes.
that I'm here and I got her, I'm like, you ain't bringing your ass in here, messing up all this stuff that I done fixed
Okay.
now.
The
Oh,
glow
this
isn't
growth.
automatic. It works.
So what was that like for you? What does when we say vulnerability, but what did that look like? How did you know
Mm-hmm.
who to like? It's the idea of like
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to have a wall, but you want to have a fence.
I like
What
that.
were those
That's real.
things,
That's
right?
real.
Because even again, to your point, I used to think like I love the whole. Well, tell me then, like we go together. But I've
Mm-hmm.
had men who told me we were
Mm-hmm.
together, and they beat
And
on
we
me,
didn't.
and they beat on me. Like so, it's still sexy, but not sexy at the same time.
Right.
Like, but what was it?
Right.
I know in that it was meant in a cute way. But like, talk to me about what was it about them or that
Mm-hmm.
time or that season that really kind of helped you in regards to knowing when to open the fence. Because I
Mm-hmm.
could have encountered the right man, but because I wasn't in the place to let him in, who knows?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right. So you can have the same situation or same words happening, but it doesn't mean that the connection is genuine as it should be. So for me, I give the end of the story or the end of the dating experience with him saying like, yeah, I don't want to do because I don't want to do this anymore. It's me and you. I give that because I need people to understand that he was also being vulnerable at that moment. I could have said, absolutely not. But clearly, we had a
Mm.
connection. He was being vulnerable during that time. I was also being vulnerable. You know, I'm known for being transparent. I don't give all, I'm just transparent. So I always have that fence, and my, intuition, the connection that we're having is telling me if I should open this fence, if I should walk out, or if I should stay exactly where I am. But you will know by it because it's not like a cookie cutter answer or a
Mm-hmm.
formula. You really know by that connection that you're having with that person. I think that at the same time too, you may look back in that relationship you just mentioned when he said like, "Oh, me and you are together," and you probably thought like, all right, I guess if yeah, because this is what I want. But there was something that told you like, no,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really it.
It's like, are we?
But this
We
feels
are?
good, and I
We
Mm-hmm.
are? Question mark. We
right,
are?
right. Meanwhile, for me in that situation, it was like, okay, or
Mm-hmm.
that's how it felt. But you again will know because going through that independent season, going through that single season will teach you
Mm-hmm.
to tune with you. So you would know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what it is that you want. I've dated people that were great guys. They were really
Mm-hmm.
great guys. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this isn't for me. And they were
Mm-hmm.
saying all of the right things. They were. They were like,
Mm. That is, oh,
this
girl.
wasn't for me. And that's how I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you said it all, sis. But for me, just really as being a woman of faith, I trust God. Being a woman of faith, I trust God. I really just had to lean on him and trust him. So I would, when I was in my, divorced and in my season of loneliness and really struggling, I would write affirmations. And so the verse that got me through is Jeremiah 29:11. I would write
Oh,
that
that's my
out and
favorite
I would read
verse.
it every day. Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you to prosper you, to give you hope in the future. And that is what got me through. And so I just had to trust, okay, God, you know what I want, you know what I desire. I just have to trust your timing. I have to trust you. So I
Yeah.
really had to, not to get churchy, but I had to really lean on him. And
No such
so,
thing. Here.
yeah, yeah, right, right. So I really had to lean on him. But there were days and nights that I would cry. I mean, literally lay out, cry, God, why am I by myself? Why are my other friends getting married, having kids? Why can't I have that? And it's hard to not compare, but we all do it. And so I
Yeah.
really had to keep going back to Jeremiah 29:11. You know the plans you have for me, and when it's my season, it's coming. And so I talked about my journey so much. You mentioned, I think you mentioned earlier about, not feeling like it's a good fit or not feeling like it's right. So I mentioned a checkbox earlier. So I was married, right out of college. Was single, dated for a while. I ended up engaged to another guy. And we had just been friends for like 10 years. So I was like, okay. And he tried to step to me and I was like, oh, we're just friends. I don't know. Ended up dating. So I called him ring number 2. And something in my spirit says that he was not it. But I felt
Mm.
like, okay, my eggs were starting to crack. I wanted to have a baby. I was in my late 30s. Okay. So I really feel like looking back, I settled. And my mom did not like him, not as a mate. And she said, so he's great as your friend. He is not, that ain't it. And I was like, Ma, I love him. He's in ministry. And I actually wrote a book about my journey. Let me jump into it. Reach higher in life and love.
Period.
Yes, me too.
Yes. And
Hold
so
on,
I
my man. I
talked
want to make
about,
sure we zoom in for the people. Let's zoom in for the
yes,
people.
honey, zoom on in. My ring light is in the way. But anyway, so I talk about that journey. And so I was really settling when I look back. I was really settling because I felt like my clock was ticking. I wanted to have a baby. Okay, he's good enough. But God was like, no, he not supposed to be your husband. So when
Mm.
God literally told me that, I remember laying out on the floor crying, but I'm ready to get married and I want this. And God was like, he is not it. We would have been divorced in 2 minutes. And so again, when I just step back, okay, God, whatever you have for me, I'm going to chill out and really just spending time with Kesha. And so you just have to go through the loneliness. You have to go through those seasons, and you have to trust that it gets better. So my book talks about my journey, therapy, falling in love with Kesha, being open to love. I talk about dating in the book. Dating is to collect data. That is what dating is for, to collect data. So what do you like? What you don't like? How did they make you feel? Do your values align? Those are the things you're looking at, not necessarily what he wearing or what he driving. That's cute, but is that going to sustain you? No, it's what's on the inside is what's going to sustain you. And so, like I said, once I was good with Kesha, confident, I would go out to eat by myself, go to the movies by myself. I was so good. So, like I said, by the time I met my husband, shout out to him. I was good. He was good. He had never been married, but he has a daughter. So I had my baggage of my previous marriage. He had the baggage of his daughter's mother. And blended families, that's a whole nother episode. It is a
Which
challenge.
again, you and Sasha have a lot alike, a lot
Oh
in
my God,
common.
we got that too. But we are making it work. I have a 14-year-old bonus daughter, beautiful daughter. But there's some challenges with her mom. I'll be transparent. But we are together. My husband and I are on the same page. And that's what matters. We are on the same page. We're a unit. So I say all that to say, trust the season that you're in. You have to really try to be intentional about being content where you are and trust that better is coming. And so I talk about all that in my book, Reach Higher in Life and Love.
I love that. And I'm gonna make sure in the credits of this episode that we include that link to make sure y'all get that. I can't wait for the first two folks to DM me, ask me about the book. I will bless you with that book.
Awesome.
We're gonna get a copy of those now. Maybe we can have a little book club together because I'm gonna read it too.
You better read it.
I need to read it too.
You better read it. Yes, reach higher in life and love. It is possible. It is possible.
Now, Sash, for you, because I know you're also entering this new realm, so it's almost like you got that 1 foot in, 1 foot out, not intentionally, right? But you're stepping into. Any advice for folks as you're stepping in and just being there, and again, the struggle.
Yeah, just literally embrace it.
Mm.
Every part's good and bad. Don't come in with a lot of what it should be, because that's, come on, we mess ourselves up with all of these notions of how something's supposed to be, what it's supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like. No, embrace the process.
That's so true.
Try to enjoy that process as well, but also process everything. So when you're embracing something, it means that you're experiencing all that it is. And so I challenge everybody who is engaged, newly engaged, or once you are engaged, definitely do that. Because either you'll find the signs that are pointing you out, guiding you into that marriage, and that's where I am.
I love that. Thank y'all.
Enjoy it.
It's
exciting.
Whew. There's just something. Did y'all like that? There's just something about just girl talk when you really get in it and you get to just to love and affirm, but to also hold one another accountable. Just when you get some powerful women in a space, just magic happens, especially when they got a little melanin. Okay. So that convo really just gave me so much life. And y'all know, and I'm hoping not only that, I'm hoping it also gave you all some life, and some perspective, right? This idea of like we see a commonality, in every of these each episode, this idea of really about how relationship starts with you, right? You having a relationship with yourself. And how, again, just having the wrong perspective of relationships, it's like a false start in a race, right? And sometimes how you start is how you finish. And so if you're saying, hey, my relationships aren't working out, it could be just how you're starting, right? And it could just involve a shift and a change, in perspective. And so, y'all know I got to give y'all a little bit of homework. Make sure you're taking that 15, 20 minutes each week, just to set time aside for you and God, you and yourself, for you to talk to you. Okay, honey? Talk to yourself. And so my first question is being honest, right? Just with yourself. No one's around, not even me, to judge you or to criticize you. But what's your view on relationships. How do you define love? And where did it come from? Right? What you know of love, what you know of relationships or healthy relationships, where did it come from? Right? And so this episode was called Girlfriends, because a lot of I mean, I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. So a lot of what I know of relationships and being what it means to be a single woman dating came from shows like Girlfriends. And so watching the men that those four women encountered, kind of taught me my do's and don'ts of what I wanted and didn't want in a relationship. Um, I think it's important again. Relationships are, it takes two to tango, right? And so relationships, there's levels and layers, in which you have to be held accountable, but then also levels and layers in where others have to be held accountable. And so my first question is, or my second question is really getting you to think about what value you add to a relationship, right? You know, you bring your stuff, right? And yes, we bring baggage, and I want you to think about that. So definitely consider and think about what baggage you bring, but also think about what value you add. What does a person get from you that they may not get from someone else? Right? What do you add to the room? What do you bring to the table? Um, and again, there's apples and onions with everything. So I do encourage you to think about what baggage you might bring. I always use, and again, a personal example. One of my non-negotiables in a relationship is I don't tolerate yelling. Coming from a domestically violent home as a child to being a survivor in my own relationships, one thing I do not tolerate, are physical spurts of anger, but also yelling. I do not tolerate, raising of voices, and if it happens, I cry like literally instant. I cannot even be sad, but you raise your voice at me, especially a male raises their voice at me, I instantly cry. And so I always, when I'm dating and I'm meeting people for the first time, I'm very transparent about that, because that's a thing that I know until I'm delivered from, that's something that I have to be mindful of. And if you're going to be in a relationship with me, you should know that so that you are mindful as well. And so that's something that I consider to be baggage that I bring into a relationship, and that I am somewhat sensitive as it relates to that, um, which is totally fine. Which is totally fine because we all have our stuff, right? And so just like that, it's, to my last question is what's your stuff, right? What are your relational non-negotiables? What are your boundaries? What are the things that you're saying, you know what, hey, listen, I have to have this, right? Or this is essential for me. Or this is an area or a line that I will not cross. This is something I will not budge on. What are those things? And if you don't have them, perhaps that might be an issue in itself, because you should, right? Remember, you teach people how to treat you. And so what you allow them to do, you're also allowing them to repeat it, because you have taught them that it's okay. And so what is not okay for you, right? But then also, what are the things that make you smile, that make you laugh, that make you full of joy, right? People aren't mind readers. And so many times we're thinking, oh, they should know that I like this. Oh, they should know that I want this. They should know that it's like they may not always know. That I was guilty of that. I still am sometimes. But people don't read minds. And so if you had to sum it up, what's 1 to 3 things that make you happy, that you can articulate to your partner or to potential partners? And so again, this can be a conversation in itself. There's a million questions I could ask you in this area, but these are the 3 that really kind of got me thinking, and really like opened the door for me to shift my perspective on my approach to relationships. And so before y'all jump down my back, I got something for the fellas too. Stay tuned. But in the meantime, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, but most importantly, make sure that you share. All right? So that we can keep touching lives and changing folks one day at a time. Okay? So, Until next week, as always, I love you. Love you. Call me back.